I don't know her lucky is. There's no name. So there's some people actually, believe it or not, that are on, and they may have questions. So I apologize if I'm looking down. Let me put the chat up. So, oh, that did? Oh, okay, good. I'm glad. But I thought I recorded it, and I didn't. Oh, I was like trying to find out where it was. I never recorded it, unfortunately. So all of those things. But then I think you got the email. I tried to capture as much as what the teachers were saying. But now I just hit the record. So it's recording, not your visual, the physical, but it's recording the screen. So we have a few parents that are on now. But we're excited that you're here for blasting off the third grade. So really some of our goals, so some of it you'll see is some of the, but our goal is really for you to have an overview of the academic expectations of Reed, for upcoming grade at Reed, to review the developmental milestones for each grade, and then to hopefully provide you resources and materials for that grade. So we're going to go a little bit, did it go? Okay, there we go. So we're beginning with our welcome. And then we'll go over the overview of the expectations for third grade students. And then we have our wonderful teachers here, two of our teachers here, to talk about what's expected, what's required, teacher recommendations and resources and suggestions for the upcoming year, and then any questions and answers. But we're free flowing, so if you have questions, you don't have to wait till 7 o'clock. You can certainly give them now and we'll take them. We just really want to hopefully prayerfully make sure that this is really for you as a parent. It's very informative. And so what I said before, which is really our standard, which is Galatians 3:17, and whatever we do, whether in word or deed, that we do it in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, giving all thanks to him. And I said it earlier and I said it before, it's my little slogan: if it's good as me, if it's great as God. So if you walk away and was like, that was okay, give all credit to me. But if you walk away and was like, that was great, that was phenomenal, it all goes to God. No, so that's really what I hopefully it comes away with, really being informative, and that you walk away with a lot of information. So the question is really in terms of what I said about our goals. We really want to make sure you increase understanding of the phases from early childhood, and adolescent education. And then looking at the overview expectations for Reed. And then more importantly, we want to increase the ways to collaborate with you to really help you with your child's success here at Reed, their academic as well as their social emotional. We feel like we really want to make sure we're working with the whole child and really helping them be successful. So we want to make sure that we are giving you, because we know at home, I have a third grader, so Ms. Chick keeps on saying I can refer. You're spending the majority of time with them at home, kind of doing some of these things and on weekends. So we want to make sure we're giving you as much resources and materials to make this as successful. So what does the research say about the transition? So really, some of the reasons why we select the grades we do is that the three biggest transitions, well, actually there's a fourth, but we don't have to worry about that just yet. But in education are really when children move from preschool to kindergarten. Typically, second to third grade is another big transition time that we see academically. Then also when they move from elementary to middle school, whether that is from fourth grade to fifth grade or if they're moving from fifth grade to sixth grade, that's another huge, big transition. And the fourth is high school. You don't have to worry about that. Well, we're working with it with our eighth graders, but that's another big transition time. And if you ever move from one location to another, it can be comfortable, but it can also be a little bit uncomfortable when you're unfamiliar and very stressful. I'll be honest, I think that sometimes it's more stressful for us as the adults. Our students usually, for the most part, deal with it pretty well because they're doing it as a cohort together. All of them together are dealing with it. And the school environment is where many transitions occur for children and their families. So it can be really helpful and exciting, but it also can be kind of a little bit concerning. And sometimes it's hard because some people may be leaving behind friends or things are changing, and that feels a little bit uncomfortable. But again, I always think that our students do much better with these different changes, and it's really us, the adults, that have the harder time with it because the students, again, even if they're coming to, for example, kindergarten, that's another big change where we get a number of new students in. If they're new to Reed or if they're just making the change, everybody's kind of figuring this out, so all of it's new. The same thing for moving from second to third grade. They're all learning new adjustments together, new schedules, new expectations. They're all kind of working with that. And our teachers will talk about how they kind of phase things in and help them make those transitions. So it's really, that's why we do this more so for parents. We used to do a big workshop for our students, and we often found our students were just like, okay, Because for them, they're like, I have the same building. We're not leaving the building, right? We're having the same sometimes similar teachers. So for them, they're in similar classrooms. So it really all feels familiar. For us as the parents, we're the ones that see some of the things differently, and it can feel a little bit anxious for us. And we're just wondering, how can we support and how can we help them? So what does the research say about the transition from second to third? It really focuses on, and you'll see another piece. The big reason why I always say one of the big jumps is from second to third grade is the research is that we're moving from learning to read to where they are learning the mechanics behind reading, and they're kind of learning about that, where they're now reading to learn. So Ms. Reader will probably talk a little bit more about what the students are going to be expected to kind of look for in their social studies and science. So less is going to be about fluency. Less is going to be about, you'll see even less with their homework assignments in terms of reading something and looking for inferential text or all of those sort of things. Because now we're getting to the meat of, now we're studying this particular topic in science. And so now we're reading to learn about the content, where we're less spending time on that, learning to read. And that's a big shift that takes place in third grade. The same with learning to write. We're moving away from kind of learning to write to writing in a more formalized format, where Ms. Reader can also probably talk about her expectation with writing. So, moving a little bit away from, those sentence structure, where she will expect now, okay, you should have that punctuation, all of those things are down. And so now when she's writing, she's asking that you write your goals for the upcoming, when you come back from spring break. So you should be able to write, a paragraph about that, and you should be able to have that structure, and that should already be, in terms of that should have to go into punctuation marks and beginning and how to write a paragraph and I think it's the first, because they have now moved beyond that, and now she's going to be grading for the actual content of it. She's going to be looking at the grammar part of it and that structure, but now that's really that expectation part. And then really we're going to be working on developing problem-solving strategies, moving from developing those to solving multi-step problems. This is a big one, really, where they have been really working with them, but I would say the expectation is that I'm giving you multiple steps. And you need to, I'm sorry. Ooh, I need to silence someone. Okay. No one had a question. I forgot I didn't mute everybody so I could hear what they were saying. It's like somebody's talking. And that, I think, is probably also another big one, where those multi-step directions, and Ms. Reader and Ms. Shill will give them, I need you to write key things that you don't even think. Write your name. Write the date. I have a little one who sometimes forgets to write his date or even his name on things. But those are very important parts of that multi-step directions. So they're looking for you to have your name and your date, but also underline and highlight, because those are also strategies that will be preparing them for not only our end-of-year testing, but we're really beginning to try and get them familiar and comfortable with following multiple step directions. So these are probably one of the biggest reasons why we're really looking at second to third grade, because the expectations are different, or not different, but really we're beginning to move from teaching you about these things to now expecting you to implement them and adding in the content material, whether it's social studies, whether it's science, whether it's something from literature. And so we understand that a smooth transition is essential, and children need support with this. So we want to be able to support you as parents and how to do that and how to help. Because most of you are not, even if you are an educator like me, I still need support. No, so even though I work with Ms. Reader and Ms. Shill, I still need support because, as I said, when I get home, usually I'm checked out. So you still need that support. So how can we help you as parents who are going to be spending time with your children through that process? And so a big thing we always say is, so what changes should you expect from second to third grade? So like I was saying, currently in second grade, you have students learning to read. Now we're moving to read to learn. The grading scale will look differently. So now they will actually start to see A, B, C, and D. That's big. I don't know. Some people will show and some people don't show their children their report card or show them their grades on Plus Portal. Plus Portal is a wonderful, 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 wonderful resource, and I love it. But it really will give you an opportunity. If you go onto Plus Portal, you'll be able to see these things. And so I think it's helpful for them, but it's also good to know that this is what is expected of them. In second grade, the teacher provides a little bit more assistance Whereas in third grade, they're expected to be more independent and more responsible of their materials, of their work. Miss Willis used to always say to my son, he was like, my mom forgot to. No, it's your homework. That's your responsibility. No, it's not about your mom forgot to put it in your folder. That is your responsibility. And so that is really what the teachers are trying to begin to say. This is your homework. It's your responsibility to make sure it's in the appropriate place, or that you put it in your folder, or you have it where it's supposed to be. So this is kind of a net in terms of overview of what's going on from second to third grade. But while we have the teachers here, I would like for them to kind of share what their expectations are. And then also kind of along that line with that slide, what we had said, and getting a chance to show answering these, what's expected, what is required, and then any teacher recommendations you have. So, yeah, you can wherever you. Well, if you need to sit, Miss Reader. Okay. And I'm going to be typing in case anybody comments.
I think I'll start. Ms. Ham covered most of the differences very accurately. The difference is, and this is hard because usually because I teach second and third, most of the time I'll have the same students for second, for third, which means I'm able to kind of gauge them a year before and kind of help prepare them a little more. It's never guaranteed. It's not guaranteed that I'll be their third grade teacher. So I just want to put that out there to make sure. But I usually try to prepare them. So I will kind of try to push them in those independent areas if they're able to. Students who show a little more need for help, I make them think that I'm not going to help them, because I make them try. I want them to try. But of course I help them. I also do a lot of what I'm finding out that works really well is peer teaching, where they work in groups and their peers help them with certain things, which is I'm finding out is a very good tool for some students. What the advantage we have in the school is where you'll have students who, when they get home for homework, they'll all of a sudden not know what's going on the homework. Don't have a clue. Don't have a clue. But
never taught them.
So what I would hope you would tell them, and I would want third graders, I expect third grade parents to do more of this, is to say, okay, you don't know how to do it, then take it back the next day and ask Ms. Rita how to do it, or ask the teacher how to do it. A lot of times you'll find that they can do it, and all of a sudden they can do it. But of course, when they get home, they're tired. They want your attention. So a lot of times there are things that they can't do. Now, granted, there are things sometimes that they may not understand, and I get that. And if you shoot an email to the teacher, student didn't understand this, can you please, and of course we address it that way and talk about it, and we review whatever it is that they didn't get. Responsibility is something we start teaching in second grade. Independence, we start teaching it in second grade. But we give a little more leniency on the expectations for second grade than we do for third grade. Third grade, we're a little harder on them. As Ms. Ham said, you can't start saying, well, my mom took something out my folder. If your mom took your whatever toy that is they like out of somewhere, you would go back and find it, you would ask her for it. So your homework is the same way. If your mom takes it out or if your dad does something with it, next day before you get to school, you need to look and make sure you have everything you need. So lists, if you need to write lists for certain students, there's some students who need a list of what's in your book bag, what do you have, but please make them responsible. That's the important part. The more parents do, the less the students will do. More parents, the more parents expect from them, just as a teacher, and you can use the teacher's name at any time. Well, I'll just tell Ms. Reader, I'll just tell Ms. Shea that you said, and then all of a sudden the game changes, trust me. So with regard to, I'm talking off the top of my head here, I'm sorry. One of the differences is testing at the end of the year. Second grade students take paper tests. So they're filling in bubbles and teachers are reading. Third grade, that
They
doesn't
have it by themselves.
So I did second grade testing, she did third grade testing. So they have to do it on a computer, and the students are reading on their own.
At first, they were very surprised, like they're waiting for the instruction because we do have a one part of test. Teachers reading to the student because that part is like it requires you to listen. The promotion part, you have to read the directions. My apologies for my voice. I have a future all day for that stuff. Thank you. I know. but yeah, no. I like to back to our parents, regardless of that. Student need to know where to find the clue. If to know, they need to self-discover. So those kind of skills, if you don't have it, if you don't give them a chance to start it to narrow those independent skills, I'm sorry, I just
That's okay.
don't. It's gonna be a little bit harder for them when they move into the third graders that I don't know what to do. All of a sudden, teachers think I find it out. How can I find it out? I don't have the tool. So that's a difference.
Is that something that you're going to, when they get up to third grade, are you going to start training them to do? So they, once it gets to the exam period, at that point, they should know because you can.
I think they have a
absolutely.
bit, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the STAR 360 they're already taking. The computer testing that you've been getting, they're already doing that, so they're used to that anyway.
And it's just a very simple thing like a daily instructions, like if you come to me with any kind of questions, we don't give the answers right away. We would like for kids to think first. What would you think? What happened? For example, like we don't have, like here's a field trip. We don't have a field trip. Oh, so what do you think is going to happen? How can you do that? You know, so those type of things, simple things. Who do you talk to? Where do you find the information? If it's teachers not available, how much are they late? You might be getting the credits off. What do you do to prevent that? Always throw the question back to them instead of let me show you how it's done. I can show you how it's done the first time. The second time, okay, I did it. Here's your turn. Right.
With the homework, do you expect like in second grade they will get a homework and it's going to do the next day? Is that a similar thing? That or is it you give it on Friday and they've got the whole week to do it? So how is it going to work this time?
So you mean like they get the whole package?
They
And
get a package on Friday.
I can tell you this though, every year is kind of different,
Okay.
but we don't know what's gonna be expected. But what we can prepare us is to be open for the different, like the different styles. So we can always start with simple things that, oh, so now the homework student, if just always throwing the scenarios. So I like to tell the students also when they freak out about, oh, the homework student, I got this, but the homework student tomorrow. It may be something that because we have a whole huge break and we did have homework and this is something very important I wanted to learn. What else you can do?
Getting
you know?
back, I think you also asking, is it a homework packet?
Yeah.
I do a homework packet for second and third. She may not be a part of that packet, or she may be. Depends
It
on how
really
the
depends on
schedule
the
is set.
schedule. Right, right.
One of the things that we ask that you let us do is get to know your child, develop a relationship with them, so that we can assess where they are and meet them where they are. Every student is different. Every student has a different learning style. Every student, once we learn who they are and how they learn and how much we can push them, then we're able to. It's just like if you have multiple children, you're able to know who can do this and who can do that, or what to expect from
We
each
need
child.
some time to kind of evaluate, observe, you know, to figure out how.
Yeah, and the
Right.
other thing is when there's a problem and they tell you it's a problem and then you come the next morning and you bring them, you're coming to tell us what the problem is, we're gonna look directly at that child and say, tell your parent what the problem was.
Not because we don't want to have a conversation with y'all. We love y'all.
Because, but we want you to
But-
ask them
Right.
first.
Because even
Ask
that's
them
something
first.
about their learning. Who's in the school? Who's in the classroom? That, and then also that relates to. I'm sorry, I just
Oh,
keep chiming. Like
okay.
language learning too, like Mandarin.
We've been doing this for 5 years.
Yeah, I know. We have like problems like forever. So like in Mandarin, you have a question about how can I have a homework? Who's in the classroom? So always, if you have a question, come to me. Of course, I understand some of the question may be a little bit different. Third grade definitely will be hard. I'll get into that. It's just like Ms. Han said, they learn to read. Third grade, they read to learn. So reading comprehension is always a key. You need to read it. You need to read. You need to fluency. You need to have a vocabulary. You need to have a foundation in order to read. If you don't have a vocabulary, it's very hard for you to be able to understand what's inside the context, right? So language, if you don't understand it, you bring it to the parents. Parents like, oh, I don't know how to do this. I'll come to the teacher. But your parents are not pressure. Okay, so let's go back to. So we always go back. That's also the main reason why I always go back to the kids. Because
And the hardest thing, yeah, it does. And the hardest thing for a parent to do, for parents who have Mandarin students, because you don't know Mandarin and you're so used to helping your child with homework. The first year we started the Mandarin program, parents were like ready to kill us because
they're outside my door. I'll
because-
take them o'clock. Right, you know, outside
first
my
of all,
door.
she's only speaking in Mandarin, and we started with kindergarten. So she's only speaking in Mandarin. She refused to speak in English. They were determined they weren't going to speak
Oh, yeah,
Mandarin.
first year. Yeah.
They were determined that they weren't going to speak Mandarin, but because, it was a battle, but because she only spoke Mandarin, by the time we got to October and took them to the Taiwanese embassy, the embassy people were like, these students were like, it's
Yeah,
like they were learning it for a year. That's how they felt, because she refused. That's how you teach immersion. That's how you teach the language, an immersion language. I want to talk about science. A huge difference between second grade science and third grade science. Now, the tests that you've been seeing in science for second grade, either filling in the blank or multiple choice or true or false or something like that. Third grade, they have a little bit of that, but it's a lot more critical thinking. So, and they'll be taught that, but there's a lot more. They have to actually really read the chapters. They have to really pay attention to all of the context features, which we teach them. All of the graphs and charts and pictures and experiments, all of those things, and teach them to take notes or have note cards. They have to be able to, their tests are so different that the last four questions are 8 points and 10 points each. So, but the very first test, when they first see it, the very first test usually kind of is like a wake-up call for everybody, even though I tell them how much to study, even though I show them how much to study. I even give them a question from the test, the week of the test. They don't know it is. And so if they pay attention, if they read, but they have to study. It's not like second grade. It's so different. They could read science chapter the night before and breeze through the test. They can't do that in third grade, I promise you. So that's the biggest, and that's the biggest issue with the transition from second.
I would even say one of the things is, as a parent who went through it, we used to use Quizlet, and I found that using Quizlet for science really wasn't helpful, but really using the science textbook, looking at the end of like each of the units, like within the unit and each chapter there are like questions, using that as my guide to ask those questions, because that's what I found was much more, because Quizlet is just really just like kind of give an overview. It didn't dig, I felt like, as deep as the science.
Like flashcards.
Yeah, it was more like flashcards,
Yeah.
which was helpful in second grade, but that was a big jump in science.
That's a question, because I know in first grade, she had there was the science project, and in second grade, they didn't do that. So is that something that would come back in the third grade, or is it something that?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Getting back, but we did a lot of design and discover. Those projects, you're familiar with the design and discover?
The whole day
We did
events.
one per quarter.
Science. We're talking about they need to read for the crew. Basically, it's across.
Oh,
the
I know what I was gonna
subjects.
say. So for reading, we have Wonders. For science, we have Harcourt.
Science.
What's it? Is it Harcourt?
Oh, for science,
Yeah.
hardcore science, yes.
Harcourt. But anyway, each of the textbooks we use, the information is right in the text. The hardest thing is to get students to do, and it's about comprehension, is to have them go back to the text.
Always.
They always want to answer a question if they know it. That's what they want to write down. No, you have to go back to the text. So whatever's in the text, that's the answer. And all the answers are right there. I promise you, when we review science tests, and I go back and show them exactly where it is, it's right there. And they go, oh, it's just because they didn't review it. But after the first test, they usually do pretty well.
What's they are used to this time.
Mandarin.
For Mandarin, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, language proficiency is always across the board. Vocabulary, I'm talking about, in order to read, you have to have a foundation, just like I said. Vocabulary is definitely getting harder, getting more. Don't know, second grade, how many vocabularies you guys normally have? 16. So you probably will see 20 or more than 20.
I'm talking about Mandarin.
I'm talking about Mandarin.
Yeah, we're talking about Mandarin.
I'm talking about Mandarin vocabulary, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys,
It's always just tracing or filling the blanks or something.
oh, really? Oh, so you really need to memorize the vocabulary when you're in certain.
What can they do over the summer?
Absolutely. Better Chinese. You still have access to Better Chinese. It's across the board. So use that as the resources. Have your kids started to read. They can start from lesson 1 is fine, even though it's very, very easy. How are you? This is my dad. This is my mom. This is my grandma. Doesn't matter. I want them to start to read out loud. They have to read out loud.
Same thing with English. Same thing with English.
They can
Read
write
out
it down.
loud.
They can practice as soon as they know this is my dad. I know how to say that. Yeah, can you write it down? Can you write it down without looking at that? So use that little thing. Don't give them something hard. Do you know how to say red in Mandarin? Yes. Do you know how to write red in Mandarin? Maybe. Do you know how to write red without looking at the character red? That's even harder. So you can always go back. Don't give them something really, really hard, but I want them to have a strong, however they have to learn. I always tell my motto to my kids, if you lose, you never learn it. When you never learn it, you're wasting your parents' money. So they all know, like we have, like, yeah. So if you don't want to lose the language skill, you already spend a lot of time. Your parents already worked so hard for you to be here. Don't lose it. Always go back, review. Don't have to be intense 9 hours every day. Only takes about what? I would say, somewhere if you don't have anything, half hour. You have something,
Minimum 15 minutes.
50 minutes. That should be enough every day. Just every day. Something to always give you a track. So Better Chinese definitely. Third grade parents already know you have access to all the podcast channel, Quizlet, and all accessible. Don't have to be overwhelmed kids. We have a lot of vocabulary, but have them to pick one thing and stick to it for a week, and then they can move on and move on. So things like that. I always talk about foundation. Once you have a strong foundation, you can build it up easily. So for me, that's the most important thing, because third grade is all about reading, and when we moving further, the end goal is you will be able to write without looking at it. Yes.
And please read all summer. Have them read something all summer. Preferably something, do fun things, but also read some things, nonfiction, very important. Vocabulary and nonfiction that they need to learn. So nonfiction reading, historical fiction, anything with also facts, anything that has maybe graphs, anything that makes it a little more challenging for them. But try to learn a new word. Try to learn a few new words over the summer. Vocabulary is huge. The more words, the better they read. Have them read to you 5 minutes.
Read out loud, right?
Out loud.
They have to read out loud.
Because
That's the
what
key.
happens is you'll tell them to go read.
They will say they read.
They'll say they're reading and they're not reading.
No.
Okay.
They have to read out loud. If you want them to make sure they're reading, you can even record it. Kids love to hear their
Yes,
recording.
record their reading.
They love to
especially
hear their recording.
Record their reading
Yeah,
and see
it's
how
fun.
well,
For
how
some
much they
reason.
improved. I
So
think we did that at the beginning of the year for second grade as well. I had you guys.
same thing
record.
with Mandarin too, and I think same thing with Spanish. I think I saw a Spanish parent. Do you have a kid? I think Leah's in first grade now. She had already been to second and third grade. I was wondering about Spanish.
For the summer.
Mm-hmm.
This Senora Jack gave me a website for her to use. So I don't know the name of it off the top of my head that I can ask
Yes.
so they can
I
get that
send
from
it
her.
out to the class.
Okay. So do you know the difference like between like second grade to third grade? Do we have other like Spanish parents? Okay. So yeah. So I'm curious about that. I mean,
So definitely she gets more in depth with the type of work that they're to do. Right now, they have definitely been introduced to what they're going to have to do as far as the writing is concerned, because they do a lot of writing in Spanish, a lot of translation. And she does a lot of quizzes, just similar to what she's doing now, but it's just going to be ramped up each year as it
And Senor Jack will be sending something out for resources. I'm sorry. I'm doing both. I'm on, what's the thing called? GoToMeeting. But, so that's why I keep on writing on the computer. But Senor Jack will be sending something out for, in terms of summer resources as well. Yeah.
Yeah, earlier, we had some kind of meeting about next year about summer packages. Is the summer package going out?
some package for like in
Summer
general.
package coming up. There was talk about sending out summer packets for the children, for the students to.
For Mandarin or
Yeah,
just
in
for in
general,
general?
for the school.
For school.
I don't know. I wasn't at that
Apparently
week. I don't know.
not.
But they've done it in the past.
Don't know. Let me just make a best suggestion. My advice, and I work.
About a required one.
I don't know about a required one, but I work at the school, and the one that I not use as a school one is I do summer bridges through Amazon. It is by far the best. I was saying to someone, I think at the last meeting, and I get both. So it's like $15. I actually, in the thing that you also see me typing up when I'll send out for handouts, will also have that link on it. It's phenomenal. It literally walks you through day by day. So I like it because I call it like lesson planning for dummies as a mom. I hate to say that word, but as a mom who, wants to have fun, and it literally tells me what to do with my child every single day from the, has a little calendar and everything from the start of we start summer break and then to the end. So that's why I actually like it better than summer packets that come home from people, because I'm like, well, when do I start and what? And it even has the answer sheets and the answer key at the back and stuff like that. So summer bridges, and what I usually do is buy the third, like for my child, I will buy the 3rd to 4th, and then the 4th to 5th grade one, and then I will just look at it and differentiate as need be, because people always say, well, we teach a grade ahead, so what should I? So I know my child, so I'll differentiate. It was like, yeah, no, he needs this 3rd or 4th. Can we go back to maybe 1st or 2nd? But he needs this 3rd or 4th, or moving ahead for 4th to 5th and on. So they're like $15. You can get them from Amazon. Like I said, my poor kids, they've already been ordered since April, so they're waiting.
And it is a good resource. It is a good resource.
So we can check though. I'll make a note to ask. Let me ask Dr. Day if you guys are going to do that. Or okay.
And then for Spanish side, no, Senor already give out the resources. Mandarin, for the, don't know about second grade though, third grade, second grade, do they have like all the materials on Class Portal? I would say like the Chrysler podcast.
She would know. That's Mandarin.
Mandarin.
Don't worry about Spanish. I would just.
No, I'm like Spanish, like Senor was saying something like that. Emails out. I would say, so download those.
Oh, she's talking about.
I'm talking about just in case if the Class Portal is closed, download those before the school ends. And they put it in the folder,
No, I just said, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so just before the school ends, so let you guys know in advance, so you still always have access to those. The Better Chinese code will be good until, I believe, October, so you guys are good. Use the same login till Better Chinese. Right. What else? What questions, anybody?
So we have access to all the software packages that we have available to us now, like Google.
that's a good question.
Mobile apps and.
That's a good question. I can only speak for Mentor Finance. I know they have access to it.
I know it might be for a while, but I don't know how long.
Right, because I know the licenses.
Yeah.
I can find that out for you and send out an email to everybody who is in the 2nd or 3rd grade, or maybe the entire school. That can be a quick text message of when it's going to be closed. And I know Moby Max goes on for as long as we, and they're using it in the summer. So that might not be a problem, but in terms of Wonders, I know it needs to close down, so.
That's good. I was gonna say, my understanding is based on our, it will shut down after a point. So we just don't, it will be like, yeah, it probably would be sometime after like July, because then they need to load the new set of students in, and that's when you then get a new, exactly, yeah. And then they need to load it to each individual teacher. But also understand, and that's what Ms. Webb was also saying at our meeting earlier, that usually Wonders is following the teacher, so it's tracking the teacher. So realize that in the summer, because a teacher isn't there, it will have materials up there, but it's not going to be necessarily moving along a path, because it's not going to have a teacher to move along. But you should have access to, I would say, safely through July. Probably once it comes back. That's
So if you click on resources, you can get to everything, every book, every workbook, every worksheet, every leveled reader, all of the literature anthology books, the reading writing workshop books. If you have access to just click on resources, you can get to any of those. But keep in mind that we go through, it's like unit 1 through unit 6. So, but yes, I would suggest that you go on that, and especially the vocabulary part. Increase your child's vocabulary, to keep practicing the vocabulary sheet, download those or print those or whatever you have available. That'll be excellent. Anything else?
Do you have a snapshot of what a typical day looks like in third grade? Just kind of.
Well,
We have a yearbook, we're still, it's a working
A
book.
typical day this year was way different than a typical day last year, so.
In terms of classes.
Oh, I can show you like my classes, because I have the one and only combo classes with Spanish and Mandarin combination. We always start with homeroom, so they come in, students say bye to their kids, they say bye to their parents at the doors closed. They put the book bag away. The door's closed because it helps them to calm, focus on themselves. They can take a book to read. Always encouraging to read science, social study. So
It depends on the homeroom teacher.
it depends on room teacher. I mean, my kind of day is gonna be like 10 minutes. I will give them like very light music, sometimes notes, so just help them to calm. This is mode of learning. We pray. We all pray. We are going to pray for what's our expectation for today. We are all wish everybody's have a great day. We go to chapel. We come back. I mean, my classroom will be then after chapel will be 2 different tracks. Mandarin may have some Mandarin classes, Spanish student may have Spanish classes, and then so they have different schedule. At the end of the day, we all get together to my classroom, get in a space, and then say goodbye, and then just party away.
So for the Mandarin students, they would have reading, language arts, and science with me, and then they would have their other subjects with other teachers. But the schedule it's different each day. There's one day where I have second grade one period, and I have third grade, and I have second grade again. Or it may be I have third grade all morning, and I have second grade all afternoon.
It's gonna be
It just depends on how the schedule works out for everybody.
right. So
But they adjust well to whatever the schedule is. We help them adjust well to
Yes.
whatever the schedule is. We'll figure out a way to help them be as productive and organized as possible. Sometimes if it doesn't look like it looked the year before for parents, they kind of panic, but don't worry, they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
yes.
Will there be, how many third graders will be
Nobody's what? Do you know?
Well, no, we're capped at 16. Well, of course, always capped at
She
16.
said how many third grade classes I think.
But my understanding is, I think I just confirmed with, and I'm looking at you as well, with Ms. Young, that there will be 2, so there'll be the Mandarin and then the Spanish class. Yeah. So it'll be the same format as it is this year. Yeah. We don't know that.
We
Yeah.
can never commit to that.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the only reason, so today we just asked our current teachers, and with the field trip and everything, Miss Mallory wanted to be here, but there's a lot going on at the end of the year. But so we asked our current teachers this year, but this shouldn't be a representation, even though they've been doing it. This shouldn't be a representation in terms of this is who will be in place. It's
For
just
sure, with you, all experiences.
Yeah.
With like I also have taught second grade with Miss Rita and the third grade as well. So.
Yeah. Any other
Well,
questions?
I have a question though. Can I ask a question?
Yes, go
What do you
ahead.
think about what survey will be look like?
Yeah, great question.
Is that
No, that's good. Good question.
anybody volunteer? What do you think about what survey will look like? I'm very curious to see.
How are you feeling?
Like
at the moment?
before you come into this meeting and after, or based on your observation, like throughout the year and see third grade. I mean, compare with that. Do you think it's a lot difference? That would do you big difference?
I kind of expect it to be. I'm about to say, Mrs. Washington has been very, I guess maybe advanced for kids. Kids work really hard.
Mhm.
And so I kind of expect it to be more of the same. We're just going to continue to build upon what they already have. Fourth grade was a big transition for me this year. There was a lot of things. No going to teach for kids. Kids have definitely speak up for themselves and more responsible.
And that's what we're preparing them for.
That's exactly.
Okay, so this third grade, I do just expect it to be just more intense, just a little bit more intense, but definitely fourth grade is going to change.
Anybody?
All right. Wow. Well, thank you. We definitely wanted to make sure that you feel very prepared for all of that. And I mean, you already know a number of those things in terms of if you have questions, who do you go to? Of course, the classroom teacher, overall grade, curriculum materials. Ms. Smith is here. I allow you to introduce her if you have anything to say.
Oh, I don't have anything.
She's working very hard with our teachers right now, preparing and programming for the upcoming year. Social emotional, definitely talk with the classroom teacher, but also you can come and see us as a counselor. But we always say, especially because the teacher spends so much time to really, in terms of starting with them, because usually a lot of times we'll circle back and partner and work with the teacher. Classroom parties, volunteer hours, all of that. Classroom coordinator, that's their key person to kind of go to for all of those sort of things. And then Plus Portal, as I said, checking our website, but Plus Portal is probably, particularly this year, because it's in third grade, like I said, you're moving more to letter grades, and so they're aware of things. But I always say also the other interesting thing with Plus Portal is I love it because it updates in real time. So literally the moment, I love it now, because as a counselor, we no longer have to deal with progress reports or anything like that. The moment the teacher, I always say the teacher will find out the moment you find out that a child is not doing well in the class. Because believe it or not, when they're getting all those assignments or papers that are coming in, they don't usually sit down and grade them until maybe they get home or maybe they have a moment of free time. And then they may grade it, but it's not until they enter it into the grade book that it really tells. I always say it's like a story. It tells a full story. It adds all the pieces together. And then they're like, oh, because they're dealing with so many kids, so they don't know. Nikki got a 69 on this test, but they may see that and be like, "Ooh!" But it's not until they figure it in. I always give myself the words. It's not until they figure it into the grade book that it really begins to paint that full picture. But it literally, the moment they enter it in, it updates itself, and that's when you will find out. So all together, we find out the same information at the same exact time. So it's a really great resource. And yeah.
Question on Plus Portal. I've heard kind of through the grapevine that in the upper grades, they seem to use Plus Portal more in real time. Like, if you don't go on it every day, you could miss something.
Yeah.
And first, second, third, we kind of look at it, once a week and twice a week. So I've heard parents who never look at it.
Yeah.
In third grade, are you using Plus Portal more as a real-time communication tool?
I think grade-wise, you would want to look at it on a regular basis. But I know for Madeline, I know sometimes Mrs. Shin might have homework due the next day.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard like
We actually have parents
they're
here.
saying,
But sure, you see that, you know.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
And I've had parents who come to me about, but yes.
yeah.
We have a problem. We have parents who have a problem with one particular task and they freak out over
I
class.
always send emails.
When they haven't looked at the grade book at all, they haven't looked at the plus portal to see that it really didn't make the grade that bad, but they're freaking out over that one grade. But if you check plus portal and look at all the grades.
Another thing I would do, I mean, what I would do, I can only speak for myself. Every time I upload something, I always send an
Email. I was gonna say they're really good with
I'm
email.
always like everything, email to everybody.
Yep.
Email to everybody. Probably will apologize for so many emails.
Yeah, do that.
These are podcasts.
I think that you'll probably, in middle school, you'll see more of them using that because it's a central place. If you think about it organizational wise, if I'm a teacher and I have 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, for me to remember to send this email to this person in this group and that group. Whereas if I'm just teaching 3rd grade or 4th grade, I'm sure it's done. But it's easier for me to just send a mass email. So that's why I think our lower school teachers usually just view email, whereas our upper 5th and above, and we're having a whole nother presentation for that, they do utilize, because it's easier. I can just post it on my wall on Plus Portal, and then you need to look there because it's a one place for me to go, and I can just upload everything.
They
So
also have an email too.
yeah,
They have an email too.
yeah.
We grade, I grade all homework, so you will be able to look there and say, if the homework wasn't turned in and you see a grade that says 0 or whatever, and you'll know that, well, I think she did that, or whatever. That's real time, so you'll see that the homework wasn't turned in or wasn't done.
Okay, last question.
Oh, sure, no problem.
Plus portal. Is it possible that the homework can also be the supporting worksheets and not just the 2 week lead sheets? Because sometimes even they've done it, they're good worksheets to use later, but you don't have access to them because they're not in a PDF form like the summer.
The homework package that we give, we would have to, I guess, scan.
Oh, you mean on Plus Portal?
Yeah.
Right, we get the calendar.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the back sheet.
That's a conversation. Y'all can have.
We don't get the worksheets.
Yeah.
I
So we
didn't
get
know,
the worksheets from so many different places.
I didn't know what the logistics were.
Oh, so you wanted to keep the worksheets as a PDF file for
It would be
later?
nice to have,
Yeah.
because sometimes I've copied the worksheets before he's done them, because I know there's areas that he might be stuck, and I can use it later as well.
Yeah.
I understand what I'm saying, and I did it 1 year and then I stopped it intentionally because students started to lose the worksheet. They feel like I don't have to keep track of my worksheet because I know eventually it's right there.
Yeah.
But parents can always welcome to ask us for the worksheet. We always have a copy.
Just ask for a
But
copy.
we don't want kids to feel like I don't have to keep track of the package I have because I that year I uploaded all the worksheet, but kids that year is also a particular year. Kids keep losing their worksheet because they know I can always go print it out. Ask my mom to print it out later.
I guess I was just wondering, a parent tool.
As a parent, yes.
It would be too much for us to be coming to you and saying, have this worksheet, have this worksheet, and if it's just there, then it's.
And have extra copies to in the folder.
Right. You can always ask the kids where is your worksheet. And so that's also another thing
That's
about
a little bit
survey.
less work than having to go all the different places to upload.
Right.
the homework, put it on.
Because that's also part of survey
Because it
being
comes in
independent.
different situations.
Yes.
That's actually a great question because I forgot. It reminds me talking about accountability. Survey, we are trying to prepare students to be a remote. We wanted to put kids more responsible. That's part of training them to be a bit more responsible. When kids lose a worksheet, I always, and parents will come to ask me, and I always tell the parents, and I don't tell your kids, I give you this.
Yeah.
Always ask your kids where those worksheets from. Let them know that there's a consequences behind it. Maybe not, could be very trivial. You need, what happened to the worksheet that you should just give it to you, your teacher just give it to you? What happened to those? Because one worksheet could be one thing, and then what about the journal, the whole journal? What about the textbook?
Yeah.
So
And I think what Ms. Shea is with their what we're backwards mapping are kind of our big end. We really want to make sure our students are getting into, as always, the high school person, thinking about getting our students into some of the top high schools. And one of the big things that I know we recently had Sidwell come out and speak to our students. And they're always really actively looking for Reed Temple students. We've gotten students in there. We have a great relationship with them. But one of the things that Mr. Gaffney, who's a missions person there, said, that the big thing that they're looking for in their students is beyond the academics. They're like, they can get that a dime a dozen. They're looking for students who are willing to take, who are innovative in their learning and looking for creative ways in terms of service learning and doing those sort of things. But also, he said advocacy is really, really important. He said, we are looking for students who can advocate for themselves. That is really, really important. He was like, because you can have all these students who have straight A's, but if their parent or someone else is always doing that for them, he said, honestly, it makes it them not necessarily be the best scholar for us at Sidwell. And so we're really, in terms of really working with our teachers to really help our students learn how to be more accountable, responsible, and advocating for themselves. It's hard, because even for me sometimes, my little one has fussed at me sometimes, Mommy, you moved mine, because I like to go through and put things away and organize it and all. And now I literally step away from it. I don't even touch it anymore, because I realized that I was messing him up. I was filing things away in my little filing system that actually he needed to bring back and show to the teacher or do something. And of course, I didn't know that because she didn't tell me, but that wasn't it. Well, he wasn't. She shouldn't have told me. He needed to bring it back, and he knew what he needed to do with it. But I'm thinking that I'm filing it and doing all of that. And he was just like, you're messing it up. I'm supposed to do this, and I'm supposed to do that. I was like, okay. So now I've kind of stepped away. But I'm pleased in terms of that level of accountability and advocacy on his behalf. And that's kind of what we're trying to get them prepared for at that high school level. But it starts early on, because they're not
Maybe a
going
little
with
bit
it.
more for parents from like when, because I know for the younger ages, they, like the parents will be like to make sure that they organize it for them.
Yeah.
Because I know that they need some kind of support, and that's perfectly okay. Certainly because they may have multiple teachers.
Mhm.
They may have a multiple subjects, like they have a worksheet here, they may have a book, they have a test book. So we start to prepare them to be able to organize themselves. If we organize for them, just like Mrs. Hank said, that he may lose track of the things because we already organized for them. We want them to be able to, oh, you lose a worksheet, can you remember where it is? Answer cannot be you don't know. You have to always keep tracking back, and ask, we always have a copy. Welcome to ask, but always ask, give them a chance to be organized. Yeah.
Are there any more questions?
One of them, the homework books, the test book, even the.
Yes, can you all hear me?
So like the science or the math.
You said,
Are they going to be?
Oh,
Hello?
keep talking about the way sometimes they bring
We'll bring it up later.
It depends. It depends. It depends on the teacher. It depends on the schedule next year. It depends on a lot of things.
Hello?
oh, yes, hello. I was
Yes,
thinking you typed the question.
I'm
It's
remote.
hard to hear.
I'm remote. Can you hear me?
I can, if you type the question, it could be easier. It's easier. 'Cause
Okay.
it's hard. I don't know where the speaker is. I feel like I'm like looking for. Hello. Let's see. I'm sorry. This is what happens when Ms. Fields told me. She said, when you do this, you should have another person do it with you. But it's me sometimes. So. All right. Hello. I can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can. Did you have a question?
Okay. Yes, I have a few questions. How are you?
Fine, and you?
I think someone mentioned earlier, it might have been Mrs. Reeder, I don't remember, suggested in terms of reading over the summer
Yes.
that they suggest the students read nonfiction books. Was that one of the suggestions?
Yes. Yes. That was one of her suggestions.
I'm just curious as to why nonfiction. Is that better for the students academically in terms of comprehension?
She's responding right now. Go ahead.
It's more factual information. It's more vocabulary, increased vocabulary, and it causes them to get information that's real. And also, it's not so entertaining. It's more of them having to process actual information.
Okay.
But find something that they might like. I mean, sometimes there's some nonfiction subjects. I mean, it's like, let's say your student likes, I don't know, sports. Then you could find factual information about certain sports, certain historical information about certain sports, who invented this sport, or whatever the history might be of that particular interest. There are a lot of different ways you can approach it.
Okay, thank you. And my next question is, there's always talk about, throughout this school season about the homework packages. Has there been any further discussions amongst the administration about decreasing the homework package to give the students more comprehension time to grasp the actual content?
Well,
What I've experienced oftentimes, we're just trying to get it done by the end of the week in order to meet the deadline of the quantity as opposed to quality. So has there been any further discussions this year about that?
Well, unfortunately, Miss Khadija Smith, who is the head of school, who would be that person leading that conversation, she just stepped out, but I took a note to write that down and take that question to her and have her follow up with you regarding discussion about reduction. I don't know, because I don't sit on those weekly meetings when Dr. Days meets with the heads of schools, the heads of the different departments, heads of schools about that, if that's been a meeting at that level of that meeting. But that's where that meeting would take place. So I think that's a great question, and I'll definitely have Ms. Smith get back to you about that.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And final question, will the slide presentation and the notes be available for the parents? Because I can see it online, but I'm actually taking notes as I'm viewing.
Sure. So the I gave out a handout that already is in there, and then I took a few notes, and so that will be also shared with you. I'll send it out via email to everyone.
Okay, great. I see your notes as well.
Yep. Yeah. And then I was also taking. You can probably see my notes that I've been taking during that time. So I'll update that and send that out as well.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Any other questions? Well, I think the last thing I ended with at the last meeting, which is probably the biggest thing, which is important part, is have fun this summer with your children. I mean, this is the one time, as I was saying, even with the kindergartners, but even in third grade, I think as they're rising to be third grade, it's an exciting, fun time. It's time where they are able to understand a little bit more, so you can take them to, like, if you get a chance, take them to, I'm from Philadelphia, take a day trip to the Franklin Institute. It's a phenomenal museum in Philadelphia. So it is like, it brings science to life. It's like Kid Zone or Discovery Zone or Discovery Place, but now, because your kids are probably getting too old for that, but it's like for big kids. So it's like the Maryland, it really is phenomenal. So if you can do that, or go to the Maryland Science Center, the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia. So that just popped up. To do a day trip, or just, there's so many wonderful things. So have fun with your children. I love that Parks and Planning, if you ever look through their book, oh my goodness, they have so many, I get excited by it, but they have so many, they have Watkins Nature Preserve. They have so many things that you can do. My family, we've done a sunset boat tour of the Potomac, not the Potomac, is it the Patuxent River, for like $2 per person. And they're like these natural, like these people they're park rangers who, they give you a whole lesson for like 2 hours. It's beautiful. You're learning about the different birds in our area. You're learning about the water, all of this stuff. So it's fun and it's science, but it's also, it's a great reason. Yeah. So, just really look at what is around in our community and utilize it and have fun with your kids with it. So, this is, as they're getting older, they're going to want to hang out with us less and less. So truly treasure this time, because it can be a fun time. Do a thing if you can't afford it, don't want to spend all the money to go to Nats Park. Go to Bowie Bay Sox game for, an evening. They even have a place where you can sleep out. That's what we're doing. But when you can sleep out on when you bring after one of the games, it's in August. After one of their games, you can bring your sleeping bag and you can sleep out overnight. And it's like, a fun thing to do. They'll do the fireworks and everything like that. But it's just create those memories and those excitement and that fun time with them, because it really is, a very special time. So do the academic part, but also try and have a lot of fun.
My parents, my students, your children just wrote a paragraph today about the summer, and they made the illustration of all the things they're planning to do for the summer. So check out their
No, it's on AstroTurf. That's why this is the type of camping I can do.
Although we didn't do it on the deck.
No. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Rita and Ms. Schiff, for staying. And thank you, parents. And thank you, parents who are online. I'll be sending this out.